Hi, and thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be doing a video on silk wraps because, as you may be able to see, I have a little break in my nail right here. I just did a removal and a manicure, and I haven't had a break in my nail for a while. But it's just a little one on the side. It's still pretty flat, so I think it's salvageable. So what I'm going to use for this is I have some acetone. You need a silk wrap. I like to have a pink file, a little stick, and a buffer. You'll need scissors and some glue. So I like to start by just cleansing the nail, which I like to do with acetone because it takes all the oil off the surface of the nail and any dirt, residue, anything that's left over. So just clean that off, and it dries really, really fast. And acetone doesn't leave any residue. Even some rubbing alcohols, isopropyl alcohol, 99%, which I use for nails, does actually leave a slight bit of some kind of oily residue, just very slightly. So I want to make sure there's nothing on the nail so the wrap completely adheres. So you can see that makes the break look a little worse. Just gonna file it just a tiny bit. Just to make sure it's flat. I don't really wanna, now that I just touched it again, I'll cleanse it again. Okay, so there's two kinds of wraps, and so I have these silk wraps here. This was actually, I bought this was an accident. What I meant to buy was actually these wraps, which do kind of save you a little bit of time and struggle, because as you can see, they're already divided into strips and they're sticky. So you can literally just cut off a section and it's already sticky, so it's going to adhere to your nail without any extra effort on your part. But I'm gonna do this the hard way today, and I'm gonna use these wraps that I bought accidentally. And it's basically one big sheet of silk. So I like to cut off a square that's a little bit bigger than the nail. Definitely a little bit bigger than what I need. So this right here is a lot bigger than the break in my nail, but that's okay because then I have something to work with. I'm also gonna get out a pair of tweezers. So this will also help me when I'm putting the wrap on. So now that the wrap is cut, my nail is cleansed and hopefully cotton free. There's always lint in everything. But it really doesn't matter if the side is completely flat or not, because we're gonna file it and buff it anyway. So I like to use this Bondini Hypo-Allergenic nail glue. I'm actually very allergic to glue. And so working with glue in general is a little bit scary for me. I used to use super glue, just regular super glue like this, and it also works, but it also, if I even smell just a little bit of that really pungent glue smell, it will start to make me have reactions. So never ideal. So this Bondini Hypoallergenic nail glue is for sensitive skin. It's really good. It doesn't really make me react, although I'm just always very careful with it because I'm just scared of the potential of reacting. So you want just a little tiny drop on the nail, tiny drop, just to get you started. I like to pull away the skin from the side. so that it doesn't have the potential to get on my skin. And then I like to do it a little bit bigger than my actual nail. The reason for the glue dot first is because I'm using the wraps that aren't adhesive. So it just kind of helps get that set on there. And then I'll put a little bit more glue on. As you can see, the wrap is much bigger than my actual break, which is good because you kind of want it to be big enough so that it is strong enough to really stay on. You don't want to do a manicure over top of this and have it lift. So it's not touching my skin. You don't really want it in general to touch your skin. I really don't want it to touch my skin because that's where I start having reactions. It's okay on my nail. So you just want to make sure that it's really, really flat, because if there's any pockets or bubbles or ridges, it will show up underneath the manicure you're doing and really cause some issues. And you don't want any thickness, bubbles, extra thickness on one nail when you're doing this. So there's a little too much glue on here, so it'll take a little bit more time to dry. Because what I usually do is I do a manicure and then I patch the one nail so it has some time to dry before I try to actually finish it up. Make sure all the bubbles are out of this. And it looks like it's pretty flat, just sticking to the nail without any pockets. So we're gonna let this thing dry for just a little bit. It still shouldn't take that long, depending on how hot it is in your work environment. The hotter it is, the faster it will be done. So we're just gonna give this thing a couple minutes. All right, so once it's completely dry, it's usually, if you touch it, it's harder at the end. It gets really stiff. So what you want to do then, and you usually have a little layer of glue all along the outside, which makes getting rid of this part easier. So you basically just want to kind of, don't file your nail or buff your nail, don't buff your nail. Just kind of buff along the end of your nail. And it should start to disconnect. The buffer is usually really helpful around at the end of the nail. And then because breaks always seem to happen right at that place where the finger and the nail meet before the nail grows longer, there's always wrap that gets stuck back there, which is what I like to have this file for. So you can take the file just like you're filing your nail. And kind of just file it off. And I'll file the end too. And of course this wrap has to go on my right hand and I'm left-handed. I mean, I'm not left-handed, so this is always a little more awkward for me. I am right-handed, but it always seems to happen on my right hand, probably because I am right-handed and I use my right hand more than my left. So now that that's pretty much off, I just have this little remnant here that's excess. You can just kind of buff, file a little bit, smooth out the end. And if you need to work on reshaping the end of your nail just a little bit to make sure that the wrap didn't stay in any places that make it look uneven or weirdly shaped. Can do that. It's just a little piece over here. And otherwise, I think that looks really good. It should be pretty much smooth too. Yeah, so the only part where there's gonna be a tiny, tiny ridge just because of the seam where the wrap goes on up here, there's gonna be a tiny little bump there. So what I like to do for that is after this step, I put my base coat on. And then before I start putting actual color on, I like to use maybe a layer of clear I use this gelish, the structure clear. They have some really pretty pink structures now too. So like this is a really pretty one too. But this one's completely clear. If you're putting on a layer of color afterwards, or if you're trying to do a negative space look with the gel, this just kind of helps to just add a little bit of a layer so that it kind of helps hide this bump, so that when you actually go to put your color on or design on, it ends up laying flat. So you can put this on, and then it's really easy to just sort of buff over this little seam line after this, so that you can start with a completely flat surface. So that is how you do a silk wrap. It's my favorite way. And if you want to make your life easier, make sure you get the pre-shaped self-adhesive wrap tabs so that it's a little bit easier to apply and you don't have to mess with things blowing away in the wind, because it will stick by itself. So if you found this video helpful and enjoyed it, definitely subscribe to my account, Amy Nick Nails, and also follow my Instagram at Amy Nick Nails. Thanks again for watching.